Hello, welcome inside pre-Christmas edition of the Scores Table. Brian Haenchen, Courtney, Delks, Danny Riego here with you. First time we've had the three of us together, and we got a couple guests lined up. We'll have Nicole and Gabby Bassett here to talk to us about a really cool scholarship opportunity to somebody that means a lot to, in honor of somebody who means a lot to a lot of people in the basketball community. A little bit later, then we'll be joined by the Hosiers from out Alexandria way, catch up with them. Jacklyn's having a phenomenal year. Alexandria's off to a great start as they look to break through and win themselves a sectional championship. We'll get to the guests early in the show, but guys, I wanted to talk about a game from Tuesday night, and that was Warsaw, Columbia City. Danny, this is one that you and I touched on, or at least mentioned late in the show on Sunday that we did. Kind of curious to see how they'd stack up. You see the score there, 64-50, Warsaw, Columbia City. I'll start the discussion with this. Score's a little bit misleading. It was a lot closer than that. I think it was a 17-4 second quarter where Warsaw outscored them, and that was the game. But it was a point difference one way and the other three quarters. Danny?
Yeah. I think the theme that I've kind of carried through, Warsaw is, I keep using the word wagon. They are. And, against Fort Wayne Carroll, which was the last game that we talked about how Peterson had 4 threes in that game. We talked about how, Chastain was shooting like 16 of 21 from the field. I turn on the Columbia City Warsaw game, and they immediately, in the first offensive possession, throw a pin down to Winchester. And then the second possession, I think Zartman hits a 3. And then the third possession, Bricker gets an attack. And so there was their big 3. I think whoever plays Warsaw has to stop them, because I've seen them run secondary break in transition, cram possessions into the basketball game. I've seen them execute their Warsaw push down series, which, I mean, just Google that if you're not that familiar with it. I've seen them run, the secondary break action that we're talking about is really a weapon of theirs. They run the floor and space the floor so well, particularly in live ball change-up possession. But then when you do get them in the half court, they attack you off the bounce. They run the dribble drive really, really well, and they space Zartman out to kind of hold help. And Bricker particularly is the kid, and I would throw Neely in there too, that really kind of understand how to play off of Winchester and Zartman. So I just stumble through that just to tell you that I just think that that's probably one of the best offensive basketball teams in the state, and they just show it every time out. That was supposed to be a very tough game going to Columbia City, who had a great week beating Homestead and Norwell. That was supposed to be a tough game. And although you had made mention that the score, maybe isn't indicative of how close the game was, they just made it kind of seem like light work.
Jocelyn Bricker, by the way, 26 points on 10 of 17 shooting with 4 assists. Brooke Zartman, the senior Ball State commit, 15 points. She goes 6 of 12 shooting, 10 points for Alexis Neely. Brooke Winchester goes 10 points and 18 rebounds. The offensive numbers are just, they're bonkers every week. They had that game against Carroll, I think it was last week, where they bombed like 13 threes as a team. Zartman's numbers this year have been insane.
Yep.
Winchester's numbers are always insane. Same with Bricker. And then Danny, like you mentioned, Alexis Neely's been coming on strong this year. It's a really, really well-rounded team.
When I saw him this summer, I was under the impression that Alexis Neely was kind of a slasher. I actually thought that she played what Warsaw calls the dunker spot in their dribble drive. Chastain, they actually is the one that moved down there. Neely is the one that in their secondary break actually runs point. So now they're running Bricker to right wing. They're running Zartman to left wing. They're running Chastain on rim run. And Winchester's the one taking the ball out of bounds in trail 3 now. So that they've just further weaponized their own players. Lenny Krebs does a great job. I was kind of texting with Hank. I'd love to have him on and just kind of talk offensive basketball. But let me kind of double back on one of those numbers that you had just kind of mentioned. Brooke Winchester having 18 rebounds. And one might say, 18 rebounds against Columbia City, doesn't have a true post player and all of that. But you guys have heard me on this pod before. I truly believe in the cliche that you don't you don't get a stop until you get a defensive rebound, or stops are punctuated with defensive rebounds. Their ability to run on the offensive side makes them a better rebounding team, because now you can't crash 2, 3, 4 kids to the offensive glass. You have to sprint back. And now if you're only going to crash 1 or 2 to the offensive glass, now you can run. So Brooke Winchester not only is responsible for punctuating 18 stops, but now she's getting 18 rebounds. And again, not all of those were defensive rebounds, but gosh, if 15 of them were, now she's got 15 defensive rebounds igniting the break. But if you watch them, she's so good at getting the basketball out of bounds into Neely. And then once they get the basketball inbounds to Neely, I immediately just look up the floor, and all 3 lanes are always filled. Zartman is always right or left wing. Bricker is always opposite, and Chastain is always in the middle. That stuff is very, very difficult to do every single time down the floor. I mean, right, Courtney? I mean, when you have transition basketball teams, your number one job is to get back and defend your goal, right? I mean, you're not crashing the defensive glass. You just become a better defensive basketball team. You become a better rebounding basketball team, and all of it's tied together. I just think they're hitting on all cylinders right now. I think what Krebs has done with that system has made complete sense for the personnel that they have. But that's what I see. I mean, were you guys a big like secondary break running team, Court?
Yeah, all the teams I played on, we would up tempo, get it up and down. Same kind of mantra that the Fever are running. I mean, they're getting it up and down. You got Mitchell and Clark, and everybody has been able to watch that at the WNBA level. But we were get it and go at college and high school and AAU.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But you know that because we used to run some of that stuff too. It's hard to teach. Now they're not getting that deep. I mean, they don't have like the 6, 7, 8 different finishes the way that like a Roy Williams or a Dean Smith or a Hubert Davis team would have. Mm-hmm. But to get the basketball out of bounds after a made basket and throw the outlet at the appropriate depth on the right side of the floor. Now they have pitches and they will throw it. I mean, that's where Zartman gets a lot of her looks. Everybody talks about like, floppy action or kickouts on offensive rebounds, and all that stuff is true. But Brooke Zartman will hit a 3 a game on live ball change of possession because Winchester gets the basketball out of bounds, throws it to Neely, who pitches, and they're just not back in time, and she puts it on the net. Kid's tough. The team is tough.
Take us home, Court.
I think the difference in that ball game was the second quarter. For those of you guys who didn't see the game, so the final score is 64-50. The second quarter, Warsaw outscored Columbia City 17-4. So 13 of the 14-point difference was in the second quarter. And you guys are watching this before Christmas, so like this is a little New Year's mindset tidbit for you guys, but like everything matters. You can't have a bad quarter. You can't. It's a difference in coming out at the end of the game and winning and coming out at the end of whatever your intention and goal is and winning or not. Like everything matters, and you can't have a bad quarter. So for all of you guys who are going to be playing Warsaw, like you got to play 4 full quarters. They're that good.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Love more on Warsaw for sure as the season progresses here. Let's go ahead and jump over, guys, to our first guest of the night, Nicole and Gabby Bassett. Bill Bassett, who's very involved with the youth basketball community, died in October. And earlier this week, on what would have been his 50th birthday, they launched a scholarship fund, the Billy Bassett Scholarship Fund, which is designed to help promote girls basketball and create opportunities for different kids. Danny, I know that you knew Bill and his family very well. I've covered audio a little bit on the volleyball circuit, but with your connections to all this, Danny, and involvement and getting off the ground, I'll let you explain it, and then we'll bring on Nicole and Gabby.
Well, Bill, I'll lead with this story, okay? You guys have noticed that we're all, wearing the Billy Bassett Scholarship Fund sweatshirts, and when Nicole and Gabby come on, and they can talk about it. But I do just kind of want to lead with a story. I knew Bill through basketball, obviously, but I also knew him through my professional life. We were both involved in, medical devices and so on and so forth. So this is, when it was earlier this week, it's actually on would have been his 50th birthday. I picked up the sweatshirts. I put one on, and the very first place I walked into was Mooresville Surgery Center. And that is a surgery center that Bill would frequent, and everybody, I think everybody kind of knew him there. So a lot of times you change into scrubs in the locker room, and whatever you're wearing, you just kind of, sometimes you hang it up, sometimes you put it in a locker, but I just kind of laid it on the bench. And I was in the OR, and somebody walks into the OR and says, "Hey, whose sweatshirt is that in the locker room?" And I was like, "Well, it's mine." And they said, "Well, I need one of those sweatshirts. How can I get one of those sweatshirts?" Okay. They knew Bill, and I had the sweatshirt for, I don't know, 10 minutes. 10 minutes in this place. And I laid it down, and here comes this kid, and he starts telling stories about Billy. And the next hour, people just started sharing stories about Billy. That's the story that I want to lead with, because this is a basketball podcast. Okay. But his effect on the people within basketball is so far reaching and so touching. And I can't be eloquent enough to talk about the effect that he's had on kids, that he's had on the club basketball space, that he's had on families. And I think you'll see that when we bring Nicole in and talk to her. But, getting involved in the Billy Bassett Scholarship Fund is something that I encourage, because and you probably hear just my voice getting a little shaky. I mean, he had such a positive effect on so many people. And the first time to wear the sweatshirt out in public, and for somebody not involved in basketball to start asking questions about it, just really encapsulated what I'm trying to say, and kind of failing miserably at it.
You're doing great, buddy. With that, we go ahead and we bring on Nicole and Gabby Bassett. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. How y'all doing?
Good. We're good. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'll start the conversation off with this, and I'd love for you to tell us about the Billy Bassett Scholarship Fund and just the purpose behind it, how it all came into existence, I guess, and just who it's intended for.
Sure. So feel free to jump in, Danny, anytime. But after Billy passed, a lot of people have been reaching out. They want to help our family. They wanted to provide meals. They wanted to do different things for us. But, his friends, his buddies, his basketball community, they really wanted to do something for Billy specifically. And they knew how passionate he was about the basketball community and about these young ladies. And I think that really encouraged them to set up this fund. And so the fund is really meant for high school basketball players that maybe need a little financial help, that want to play in college, that have this drive and determination to do that, but just need that extra little push. That's what this is for. And so we're really proud. I think everybody loves the sweatshirts. I can't tell you how many people have reached out after seeing that logo, which is, in my opinion, perfect. But they just want to help. They want to do something in honor of Billy. And so we're just trying to gear them and steer them here.
Speaking of the logo, I need you to share the story for everybody. I've heard it from Danny, but I'd love to hear you guys just tell everybody what's the story behind the logo.
Sure. Well, I have to give props to Ava Henson, who is actually a dear friend of ours. She plays basketball up at Taylor. She's also a Westfield kid, and we live in Westfield, so it's an honor to have her help us. But there's a photo that she took of Billy and Gabby, I think last year, maybe.
Yeah.
Last year?
No, it was this year, but like in July or June. I don't know.
Earlier this year. And, he's looking at her as she's playing. And this is the picture. It's really the silhouette of Billy and Gabby on the court. And it just kind of encompasses him. He's encouraging her. And, you can just see his intent, his passion, and his love for the game in one picture. And to have both of them on this is just very special and really near and dear to my heart.
piggybacking off of that, and you mentioned him kind of mentoring Gabby in that photo. What was he like as a sports dad?
He was very intense and hard on me, I guess, but very like, I don't know, coachable, and he like helped me a lot. I don't know how to describe it. It was really good. I loved it.
Do you guys have any? Oh,
I
go
will
ahead.
say, yeah, that's okay. One of the things that I didn't realize that he did until after he passed was Gabby's come with a couple of cards, like of encouragement that her dad would write her. And I didn't know he did that. I also didn't know that they prayed together before every game. So there's things that I'm learning even now about my husband that I just think is so special. And I think it's really why a lot of the girls loved playing for him. You know, he was intense. He would yell at them. He would not give them an inch to buckle down. But I think his teams were phenomenal because of that. But then he would also be the coach in the background doing TikToks with the girls. So
Yeah.
I think that, he just had a knack for pushing them to their potential, but yet, being a great leader for them or a great inspiration for them off the court as well.
Was he pretty good at the TikTok dances?
Yeah. Really
Good.
fun.
Good. So, but it wasn't, I know we're here to talk about basketball, but it wasn't just basketball and learning more about Billy. I mean, he supported because your oldest daughter's a great volleyball player over at Westfield. Gabby obviously plays basketball, but then you also have the youngest daughter's a soccer player. So you guys kind of run the gamut in terms of sports here in Indiana. And it seems like he was dialed in and plugged in on everything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he did it, but he knows people in every single community. I mean, obviously basketball is his love and his passion, and he knew that world in and out. I kind of led the volleyball world just because he was so involved in basketball. And then the soccer thing is interesting. I think Caroline actually just recently gave up soccer to focus in on volleyball. So, but he was very passionate about whatever sport the kids wanted to do. He was going to support them and he was going to be all in. And so I think that even though some of them didn't play basketball, and he strongly encouraged that, but he was all in no matter what they wanted to do. So
Gabby, how did you end up with basketball then out of your three sisters?
I felt like I don't know if this is right, but I felt like one day I kind of went outside to play knockout or something. I felt like I just instantly loved it. I don't know. And I did rec and stuff, and I think I just from that instant I had a love for the sport, and I knew that was gonna be my passion and everything.
I love that. So what has the support been like around the basketball community since October? I mean, I've seen and heard some of the anecdotes, but for you guys, I mean, what's the outpouring of support look like?
I mean, I'll say even day one, I mean, the first person or one of the first people here at our house was Pastor CJ from Northview, who has a daughter that plays at IGB. He was one of the first people here. And then the next thing I knew, we had the volleyball team was here. The basketball team was here. We just had an outpouring of support. In day two, we had, 200 people in our front yard.
Oh my God.
And the West Virginia Thunder basketball club all showed up in West Virginia Thunder gear. I could not tell you couldn't look, or you could look from right to left and all you saw was West Virginia Thunder. So to say that, I think that we had IGB there. We had West Virginia Thunder. We had, all these different clubs supporting Billy and our family, I think was just phenomenal. That it just really shows you that the basketball community is really a family, and they didn't care which club we were playing for at that time. And I think that's just that kept going, more and more people from Kokomo, that he played with at Kokomo High School. They were showing up. And, Josh Sable and people from Ohio that I don't even know. Gabby probably would know them better than me, but just people that they played against and that he coached against, they were here and they were here to support us. And I just think, he would be so honored to know the impact that he made.
And there's a Purdue connection because Nicole, your dad was trainer at Purdue for a while.
He was the head trainer, director of sports medicine for almost 40 years.
Okay.
Okay, hey, I gotta jump in here.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta let you know.
Yeah.
Okay, if there was a Mount Rushmore at Purdue athletics, okay, there's like Drew Brees, Gene Cady, Rick Mount, John Wooden, Denny Miller is on that Mount Rushmore. Like he is on there 100%. And I was thankful he was there 2 of the years when I was there, 2010 to 2012. I think he retired in 2012, if I remember. I remember like they had the retiring party and like salt of the earth, man. So I was so excited to hear about that connection of you, that being your dad. I was like, man, like if Nicole and Gabby and their whole entire family is anything like Denny, which I know you guys are, rock solid. So I loved hearing that. I know that you and Billy met at Purdue, correct?
We did.
Yep.
I think his dream was to be a walk-on on the basketball team. Obviously, that didn't happen. But, having that Purdue connection for us, we got engaged on campus. We got married on campus. We have basketball tickets. We have football tickets. That's just a place that's near and dear to our heart. And I think the kids obviously have that same passion for Purdue. But that all comes from my dad. I think we always refer to him as the godfather of Purdue. But I'm going to tell him you said that his face should be on Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore, Purdue, 100%.
And I'll even add to that story because Gabby, you were there. I mean, we went up to see Kentucky play, and I kind of peeled off to talk to Katie. And I mean, when you lose at home to even a ranked opponent by that much, it's sometimes it's not the time or the place to talk about anything really. They just kind of want to be alone. But the involvement that people want to have or will have within the Billy Bassett Scholarship Fund is because of Billy and his family and his effect. It doesn't have anything to do with which club, and it quite honestly doesn't even have to do anything with basketball. I mean, I asked Katie Geralds to get involved, and I made the connection very quickly that his father-in-law was Denny Miller, and it was done. Like Katie Geralds and you'll see her probably on social media, maybe in a sweatshirt, maybe you'll see a video, but I mean, she actually just texted me the other day about, hey, I saw the stuff that you were talking about go up live. And I think it just speaks again, at the risk of redundancy, I think it speaks again to just the widespread effect that Billy had within this community. And as the people watch this we have a very built-in, basketball audience, but the people that are listening or watching this show right now probably don't even realize that you're connected to Billy in probably 1 degree of separation, maybe without even knowing it. Because Katie Geralds was connected through 1 degree of separation without even knowing it. And that's that's the head coach of a major Big Ten basketball program.
And it's crazy too. I mean, the number of volleyball kids, obviously that's one of my sports too. I mean, the number of volleyball kids who've been posting about this scholarship and sharing and supporting your oldest daughter too has just been unbelievable. I'm sure that's meant a lot to everybody as well.
Yeah, and Gabby plays volleyball too. So I think, between all 3 of them playing volleyball and the basketball community, it's just been, to be honest, it's been a little overwhelming. I don't know how I could possibly thank all these people. I'm trying to write thank you notes, but I think that, when I see them, I'm just going to hug everybody I can, just thank them, and just knowing that they're there, that they're supporting us has been phenomenal. And if we needed a ride to and from practice or a meal, or, I can't get my mail and we're running late, whatever it is. I came home, and actually the Theta Chi fraternity that Billy was in, there's a Theta Chi brother edging my front yard that I'd never met before. He lives around the corner. He came, he left a pocket knife here on Billy's birthday for me, so I'd have protection. Just the amount of people between the basketball community, the volleyball community, and then obviously that fraternity has just been absolutely incredible.
I have a really tough question. I've been my mind's been wondering. Okay, so Kokomo is red, white, and blue. Purdue is black and gold. Westfield is green. What is the blue color choice for the sweatshirts? Because they're going to be out everywhere. Is it just like Gabby's favorite color?
I think blue was his favorite color, and I think that red, white, and blue was my favorite colors too, and I think that it just fit to go with Carolina blue because I don't know.
If you would see all the clothes that were in his closet, 99.8% are blue. Yeah. So if you bought anything for Billy to wear, it was blue. And so that's why we went with the Carolina blue. He loved this color blue. And, it just seemed appropriate. Yeah.
Were you guys able to infiltrate? Are there some splashes of green in there for Westfield, or is it the Shamrock Westfield with some light blue on it?
Oh, yeah. He does have, he was starting to wear more green. He did have for sectionals, they all had green and white hats. He had ordered shamrock shirt. He was going on a ledge there, but he wore a big shamrock shirt. We were trying to talk him into shamrock shorts, but he wouldn't do that.
I'll add to that story, and I don't know, maybe embarrass Nicole a little bit, but as she had mentioned before, and it bears worth repeating, the logo is an adaptation of a real photo that Ava Henson took. Okay. So when we were in, Nicole and I were in a text thread together, and we were kind of just making minor adjustments to the color and to the spacing and all of those different things. The last thing that we did was color. And so there were all of these different logos that were being sent by different people into the thread with different colors. And as soon as the actual white on the navy came out, and then there was a picture of the sweatshirt that came out, Nicole put a blue heart and said, "That's perfect." And then the text thread ended. It was just over at that point in time. We knew that was going to be the logo of the BBSF. And we hope that it's something that, I wore it to a game on Wednesday, and I was the only one in the gym wearing it. But I think one of my visions is when I walk into a gym that there's, 20 or 30 of these sweatshirts around. And I think we can do that for Billy. And just to make sure that, his legacy lives on. And it sounds silly to make it through a sweatshirt, but it's so symbolic. But when Nicole wrote, "That's perfect," it was one of those things that just it made the logo even more perfect than what we could even describe.
Nicole, speaking of the scholarship and these hoodies, if people would like to get a hoodie, how can they find them?
Well, first of all, you should go check the website out. So there it is. The Billy Bassett Scholarship Fund.com. Check the website out. You can, there's different links where you can join us in this wonderful group of ours to help fundraise. But you can also get a sweatshirt at that website. You can learn a little more about Billy. But go to the website. That's going to be the easiest way.
For those, so in terms of selecting a recipient for the scholarship, what is that process going to look like for your end, if you don't mind me asking? And then just what's the timeline, I guess, for when you're going to make that announcement?
Well, I think the timeline is we're hoping to announce this at the state finals this year. as far as the process, I mean, I think it's going to be a group effort, right? We've got Danny. We have a couple other people, Chad Miller, Jeremy Bloom, a couple of people on the board that will all come up with who we feel is the best one. But there is criteria. I could read it off, but I'd have to pull it up on my phone.
That's okay.
But there is a pretty good criteria. Obviously, we'd like it to be a senior in high school and somebody that, is going to go play in college and needs that help. And so I think that, there's going to be an essay part. We're going to look at grades. We're going to look at community service. But we are going to look at the whole person, not just the skill on the basketball court. And so I encourage those senior basketball girls, go out there, apply, like the more the merrier. I cannot wait to hand this out to the first recipient. I think it'll be really special especially for Gabby to be able to do. So just check it out. I'm sure at some point we'll probably put the criteria on the website, but we just haven't gotten there yet.
When the time comes, everybody should go to BillBassettScholarshipFund.com, also where they can get information on how to help and how to support the Bassett family. And just such a really, again, just an awesome thing that you guys are doing to honor your husband's memory. That's phenomenal. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nicole and Gabby, thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk with us, and best of luck moving forward. I'm sure I'll see you out at some basketball and definitely some volleyball games here this next fall. But thank you guys so much, and take care.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Doesn't Hank look great in the sweatshirt, by the way, Nicole?
I love it. I love all of you in this sweatshirt.
Yeah, I'll be wearing this at all the games that I cover this year. I think this will just be my new go-to hoodie this year.
Well, and here's the thing. It's not a specific color for any local high school.
That's
so
true.
You can show up and, be your own entity.
I love how dialed in you are, because that's the number one concern, I swear, when wardrobe picks. So this is perfect. I can't even begin.
Got to be neutral.
To thank you enough for that. Yes. I love that. That's good looking out, Nicole. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye, girls.
Bye.
Nicole and Gabby Bassett joining us again. That is Billy Bassett Scholarship.com for more information, ways to get involved and support. And good on you, Danny, you and everybody else involved. I know it's not just you, but I mean for everybody and what you've done both for the family and then with that scholarship too, man. That's really awesome.
She's been a rock. Nicole has been an absolute rock. And when I was at the funeral services, that was listening to her, Billy's friends, Billy's sister, listening to them speak. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I was moved. I just kind of got home and there were conversations about the creation of the scholarship fund. And it was the brainchild. She had mentioned Jeremy Bloom and Chad Miller, and I'll shout those guys out. This was their brainchild. And they got me involved after the fact. And then we went over to the Bassett home to present the idea to Nicole, and she immediately fell in love with it. And all through the process, she has been an absolute rock. She has been supportive of everything that we've envisioned with the scholarship fund. And of course we have made it, in a way that is her family's, but without having her really do any of the work, really. But she's been fantastic, and I've gotten to know her better. I just encourage everybody to get involved, because this is an incredible family. The kids and Nicole are happy to they've poured so much into this in the last even just month, that the least you can do is go to the website and check it out. I think awareness is the number one thing that we can have here with Billy. And you'll hear words like legacy and effect and things like that. But it's all true. I mean, we really do want Billy's legacy to live on. And you'll hear it too. You won't even realize it. I'll go on a little bit of a monologue here, but like one of the games on our schedule that we're talking about is Mount Vernon New Pal. Okay. Kid that had 27 points in that basketball game was a freshman by the name of Zoe Wood. Okay. Zoe Wood is a Billy Bassett kid. Okay. I mean, and there's not anybody within the basketball community that would associate Zoe Wood with any other coach other than Billy Bassett. Okay. She is having as good of a freshman basketball season as anybody in the state. We're going to talk about her on this podcast. She's going to be a great player. And and she's not the only one. I mean, take Catherine Bassey, for example. Catherine Bassey not only wins a position battle at Carmel as a 2028 freshman at Carmel, but then she inserts herself into the starting lineup. And then when she inserts herself into the starting lineup, she goes on to lead them in scoring through the first 4 games before a tragic injury ended her season. But these are kids that they're not just basketball. I mean, they're really good basketball players that would have ordinarily been the topic of conversation on this podcast, with or without the sweatshirt. So to make the connection to their coach, Billy Bassett, I think is one of those. I mean, and everybody, I mean, and it extends beyond. I mean, there's a starter at Connorsville, 2 contributors on Lisa Finn's Cathedral team. Those are Billy Bassett kids. Even Mount Notre Dame, like one of their freshmen down at Mount Notre Dame in Cincinnati, which is a traditional power for high school athletics. That kid's a Billy Bassett kid. They tweeted about him. So this is more far reaching within the basketball community than I think anybody realizes right now. And I feel, because of maybe my place in the space, to maybe evangelize that, because these kids will remember Billy for their entire 4-year high school career and beyond. I think it's incumbent upon myself or the rest of the basketball community to have our hand and do our part into making sure that Billy stays connected to these kids, because he was a big part of their lives.
Again, just in case anybody's just tuning in, Billy Bassett Scholarship Fund.com. Would be remiss. I don't think I mentioned everybody's names, but Gabby obviously played basketball. Audrey, their oldest, is a volleyball player at Westfield, and then Caroline plays volleyball as well, as we heard. And then just as we shift topics here and get back into the basketball side of things, an amazing just small world moment where her dad is a trainer at Purdue. Nicole's dad's a trainer at Purdue, and Courtney, you crossed paths with him?
Yeah, I was there from 2010 to 2014, and he was there his last couple years, 2010, and he retired in 2012. And so my athletic trainer named Jess Lipset, she's now, I think she might be in the role that Denny was in, but she was like mentored by him. And I would always hear on our trips, she would always talk to me about Denny, and just I would see him. Thankfully, I didn't have to get to know him like extremely well, which means I wasn't in the athletic training room injured and didn't have to go through any rehab. But when when you just pass by him, such a smile, encouraging guy, and always was uplifted whenever I was in his presence, just passing by, and he always gave a smile and a word of encouragement.
I think the first, we made a joke about how, everyone's going to be wearing this sweatshirt. The vision is that everybody's going to be wearing the sweatshirt. I don't have access to to monitor the sales or whatever. But in a text thread, I think earlier today, I think somebody said in the first 24 hours, I think we sold like 70 some sweatshirts, I think in the first 24 hours or something like that. So, like I said, just get involved. And you'll see anybody you see in the sweatshirt, just talk to them. People have them in their trunk. They can sell them to you out of the trunk. If you haven't been to the website or anything like that, you're going to be able to get your hands on them.
My vision I have. So I feel like maybe 2 years ago, the orange W sweatshirts were like the it thing, like the WNBA logo sweatshirts. Now I'm seeing the blue Billy Bassett Scholarship Fund sweatshirts is like in Indiana high school gyms, and let's make it go beyond. That's the sweatshirt that's connected the basketball community. Like I see that, especially in Indiana. So let's make it happen, y'all.
Love it.
Thanks. Good stuff. We're going to transition now to our next guest, Jacklynn and Mickey Hosier from down in Alexandria. Off to a great start this season. How are you guys doing? Thanks for joining us.
We're good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Alexandria off to a 12-0 start. Mickey picked up his 100th career win versus Frankton a couple weeks ago. Jacklyn's closing in on 2,000 career points. I mean, everything's just going swimmingly up there, it seems. I'll just start broadly and just ask what's been clicking for this group. How have you guys felt about the season so far?
Okay. Yeah, it's our team is built on senior class with Jacklyn and about 5 other girls, and I've been coaching them since they were like 4th or 5th grade. So it's awesome that we're having success. Our team's built on pressuring people, and we're doing a lot of that, and trying to get the game to our pace. And when we do that, we feel like we're going to have success.
I think we've been successful the last few years, but there's just been a hump that we want to get over, and I think we're getting there this year, and we're just having a mentality of going 1-0 every day, whether it be in games and practice, and I think that's helped us so far this year. So yeah.
Jacklyn, by the way, is averaging 27 points on 54% shooting, 6.8 rebounds, 5.8 assists, 9.0 steals, all career highs across the board. Mickey, I'll ask you as a dad, I mean, just to hear those numbers splayed out like that, and I'm sure you see them every day, but I'm sure you just got to be all over the moon proud of Jacklyn and what she's been doing this season. And I mean, obviously over the course of her career. Yeah,
it's been great. I've coached a long time, but I haven't been fortunate to coach a player as good as Jacklyn, and I guess it's nice when she's my daughter as well. But I try to look at it as just I get a couple two more hours a day to spend with my kid, which is awesome. I don't know if she thinks that all the time, but it's also good just as a coach to see somebody who's put a bunch of work in it and get the rewards of having a great year.
Jacklyn, for those who haven't had a chance to see you play yet, if you could just tell folks what you pride yourself on as a basketball player and what you think sets your game apart.
Yeah, I mean, I think I really pride myself on just not getting tired, being able to stay in the game the whole time. And our team prides ourselves on our defense, just getting steals and being able to get in our press and play fast and speed other teams up. So just really not getting tired the whole entire game so I can play the whole time.
So I got to ask too, before I forget, it's a long day, but Vermont, awesome that you get the opportunity to go D1. Emma Hahn from Zions was going out there too. For you, what made Vermont a good fit for your college career?
Yeah, I just think they continued to pursue me the whole entire time. And I think that's a really big part of your decision, just knowing that team wants you and they have confidence in you. So I think that was the biggest part of it. And I just really wanted to play Division I basketball. So that played a big part in it too.
So when I was in high school, Jacklyn, Alexandria was in our conference actually. So I played Alexandria, played against, and there was a player at Purdue before me. So Jody Howe, when I was going on recruiting visits to Purdue, she was like there and a part of the process. I got to watch her a lot. I don't even know, you probably might not have been born to even know who Jody Howe was, but have you had interactions with Jody Howe? Has she been kind of a role model to you at all? Or like, if not, who have you looked up to? Because I always know that great players have players that they look up to. So I'm just curious who your mentors have been. Besides
I never got to watch her play, but I mean, she's an awesome player, I've heard, and she's actually, doesn't she have the all-time leading scorer in Madison County? So, but I think I've really looked up to Caitlin Clark. I mean, she's just so fun to watch, and she kind of, I try to play like her a little bit, just so watching her all the time, I think that's helped me a little bit.
You're closing in on that record, that Madison County all-time scoring record, aren't you, Jack?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, there's the girl from Pendleton. I can't think of her.
Casey.
Yeah, Casey Warfel. I know I can think of her name. Casey Warfel and Jack are pretty close, but whoever gets it, it's only going to have it probably for a year because Lanaya at Lapel is a year behind them. So Courtney, the conference this year is going to come down to the end of the year, probably us and Oak Hill. Oak Hill's a young team, but they've also had a great start to their year. So we know where you're from, and we're not going to hold that against you that you're an Oak Hill graduate.
That sounds like a game I need to be at then. I haven't met you, Jacklyn, on here.
Yeah. Well, Jack, it's good to see you. And it's been fun getting to know you and your dad, Mickey, over the last year. And it's been fun following your success. I have a question about that. You mentioned Lapel, Mickey.
Mhm.
Okay. They beat you 3 times last year. They beat you, I think, 2 times 2 years ago, and I think 1 time. I think it's 6 times in a row. Jack, you even kind of insinuated that there's some bumps in the road that you got to get past. Talk about what the 20-point victory at home against Lapel did from a mental perspective. I mean, what did that game mean to you? What did that outcome mean to you? Mickey, what's the locker room like? Can you build on it? Talk about just that rivalry and getting past it. Because now you're 1-0 basically against Lapel in the last 1 game. So talk about that.
Yeah. It's just been one of those games where, in the end, I think they were probably the better team, and they won those games. They were great fights. But this year, we really felt like with some of the players that they lost, we knew they were still going to be good with Lanaya, but we really felt like we were the better team. But you just have some of those teams that are kind of in your head as a program, and they were definitely that for us. So I tried to say all week long that it wasn't, the game didn't mean anything, but my team was not convinced by that, and I didn't really believe that either. And I was just really proud of my team that week. We were really dialed in. I was going to be really disappointed if we came out and laid an egg that night, but they were dialed in the entire week. And then we came out and we played like it. And, it was good. It was one of those kind of get over the hump. It doesn't really mean anything in our season, but I think just for mentally as a team and a program, it was kind of good for us and gave us confidence moving forward.
Jacklynn, what does that look like from a player's perspective? You get Danny just listed out the record against Lapel. I won't make you live it out a 3rd time here, but
thanks, Danny.
My bad, Mickey.
But as a player, I mean, is it kind of, you mentioned it as a mental help, but I mean, what does that look like? What does that feel like in the moment? Like, is it just, oh, here we go again as soon as something starts tilting the wrong way, or what?
I think it just been a lot for the seniors too. I mean, we've got beat by them since our freshman year, and we knew that we had a really good chance at winning. I mean, it was going to be a good game either way because of their program. They have had a great last couple years with Lanaya, so we just knew it was going to be a fight. But we also knew that we were the better team this year, and we just had to play how we know how to play, and it would have played in our favor, and it did.
And now we too should point out that the sectional mix-up means that you guys get away from Lapel finally. You get in with Madison, Grant, Wapahani, Eastbrook, Muncie Burris, and Blackford. Looks like Wapahani, it's probably going to come down to you guys and Wapahani, fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Wapahani is a really good team. We don't see them in the regular season. We used to play them, but they weren't in our sectional, and now they've moved back into our sectional. They had a nice move in. A girl from Monroe Central that moved over to Wapahani that is a Division I center. Just like Jacklynn said, we're trying to take every practice and every game and go 1-0 each day. And so we're watching their season, but obviously we have a lot to play for before we get to that time.
Mickey, I have a question about coaching, just from one coach to another. I don't have the luxury of having teams that are around for multiple years. I mean, you speak of this senior class. I mean, you've had them for 4 years. How have you approached that? I mean, have you changed a lot year to year, or have you just built on it, or have you changed streaming and like, okay, I think we need to focus more on the defensive side because we don't have the offensive prowess, or what is? I mean, how? Just talk about the evolution of that class and where you have gone with giving it its identity.
Yeah, I think our identity hasn't changed very much. I think we just really focus on our core principles of pressure and pace. But I think the one thing that we have been able to do is develop some of the seniors around Jacklynn. I think we kind of know what we're going to get with Jacklynn each night. But we have one of our other senior who's averaging about 11 points a game.
It's Kellums, right?
Say that again.
Kellums?
Actually, it's Lily Harp. Riley Kellums is
right.
our 6-foot center. She's averaging about, I think, 7 or 8 a game or close to that. And then our 2-guard, Kyla McFall, is about 6 or 7 points a game. And so, we feel like Jacklynn, if she can get, her 25 to 30, and we can find 20 to 25 more points the way that we play defense and the way that we pressure people, that we're going to have a good chance every night. And so far, that's came to fruition. I think we have a little bit tougher competition coming up. Some of the really good teams that were on our schedule last year are down this year. And so, we play a conference game tomorrow, but then we're going to Richmond next week and probably going to run up against Ben Davis, who's starting to play really well. And so we're looking forward to that challenge and just trying to get better each day and become the best team by the end of the year.
They're kind of the three big names in Madison County, two of them being seniors, Jacklynn and Casey, obviously, and then Lanaya Wills over at Lapel, who does a year left. I mean, for both of you, what has it been like getting to play in the county at this time where you have just three such unique talents coming through at the same time?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just when I do get the chance to play either of them, it's just really fun because it's going to be a good game, good competition, and it's fun for people to watch too because the way we both play, it's just going to be fast and back and forth, and I think that's really fun to watch, or it's really fun to play against at least. So
just from a coaching perspective, it's neat. A lot of times in our county, it's been about the boys side, and we've had some really good boys basketball players come through our county. And in the last couple years with Casey and Lanaya and Jacklynn, there's been just a little bit more spotlight on the girls side, and to have three just high level players, and then with three high level players, you have three high level teams. And so, like Jacklynn said, anytime we've ran into them with regular season or county matchups, it's just been fun because the atmospheres for those games have just been packed houses and just good atmospheres for our programs.
And that'll be fun too, where you get Lapel and Pendleton Heights going first round of county, and the winner's probably going to advance to place you guys on a neutral floor. So you'll get another crack either at Lapel or you get a shot at Casey, I guess. So Jacklynn, are you guys friends outside of basketball, or what's your relationship like, I guess, with those two girls?
Yeah, me and Casey, we were in YLA and Balance together. It's like something in Madison County. So we saw each other pretty often, and I think we're just very similar and different fonts, so just fun to talk to somebody from a different school and like see how she's doing every once in a while. And then I don't talk to Lanaya as much, but we're still friends. We're like talk sometimes. It's not an everyday thing, but yeah.
That's fantastic. One more for me, and then I'll turn over to Courtney and Danny for any of their final questions. But what would it mean to you, Jacklynn, and Mickey, to you as coach to win that first sectional championship since 2002 for Alexandria?
I mean, you can go.
Yeah. It's just, for me as a dad and a coach, when I was in high school, we were playing in a one class system, and I was able to play on two Anderson sectional championship teams. And I try to explain to my team, like I'm getting older, but there's not much in my life that I can remember as special as, winning a sectional with the kids that you grew up with. And, Jacklynn she's accomplished a lot as a player, but none of that really matters, and she doesn't care. She wants to win something. And so those are our conversations, her and I as a coach and a player and a dad and a daughter, but also just our team's focus is, it's nice to win games, but we want to win something special and be able to get our picture on the wall at our school and do something cool for our community.
Yeah, I think people ask me like, what do you want to accomplish this year? And I always just say, I want to win something with my team. And if that comes along with personal accomplishments, then that's great. But my biggest goal would just be go win something with my team, because that's something you're going to remember forever. And there's probably not much that's going to be as fun as that would be. So.
Jacklynn, I have a few questions for you. The first one is, so a lot of people don't know exactly how much time and sacrifice goes into becoming a great player like you are. Your dad and yourself are probably the only two that know in your family how much time you've actually put in. To all the little girls that are listening that want to be like Jacklynn, what would you tell them, and what advice would you give them on like what it takes to become a great player?
I'd just say like the extra hours matter. It's easy when your dad's the coach and you can get in the school, but just find ways to get your hand on a ball, and even if it's in your living room, dribbling, shooting, whatever. I don't think it has to be out in a gym. You can get better just dribbling a ball in your living room, which is what I was doing because we're around basketball a lot, whether it be him coaching a different team. I was always in the gym. I had that privilege. Some little girls don't, but yeah, anytime you can get your hands on a ball and get some shots up or anything, just take that opportunity.
And now they have like these silent basketballs.
Yeah.
Get
one of those.
Silent balls you dribble, you can't even hear them bouncing, so you can do it in the house. Other questions. So we're coming to the end of the year here. So in 2024, and this is going to be for both of you guys. What are some ways that you guys have grown, not even as a team, but just like individually? I'm curious, like what are some of your wins individually? And this can be basketball, outside of basketball for you guys in 2024. I like to celebrate.
I've really tried as I've gotten older as a coach. I've been a poor loser. I don't think I want to be a good loser. And obviously we're 12-0 right now, so we haven't lost that much this year. But
Don't worry about it.
I've really, I've really tried to just dig into a lot of the process more and grind a little more and try to enjoy. Obviously, winning on a Friday night is good, but just really try to enjoy the preparation and the film study and the practice prep and some of those things that people don't see. I've tried to just enjoy a little bit more of that. And then the other thing is just enjoy the time I'm having with Jacklynn. Like I said, I haven't coached a player as good as her in my career. And so sometimes it's hard when you're in the grind every day to just know that it's fun to have a good player and to be able to do different things with a good player. And then to have that player as my daughter, it just made it really special for me and my family. And so those are the things that I'm proud of and I'm working on in 2024.
Yeah, I'd say the same. Just trying to enjoy it a little more. I can get really competitive and it can get the best of me. And then also I think one of the things I've just gotten better at is being positive. When you want to win so bad and you're really competitive, you can kind of just you want to yell at people. And I think I've gotten better at that, just leaving the yelling to him and just picking up my teammates as much as I can, because when they're making shots, we're just a way better team. So I think staying positive is one of those things that helps that.
So for the audience that doesn't know, Mickey could ball too. So Mickey was an Indiana All-Star and went on to Ball State, had a great career. I don't know all of the high school accolades, but we're about the same age. So I remember not a shot here, Mickey, but a little bit older than me. But was one of the guys that I tried to model, I tried to model like when I played, out of the things that Mickey did. So we'll get you out on this, knowing that you're both ballers. Who wins between the two of you now? Can you get him, Jack? Is the old man lost a step? Father time undefeated?
I've beaten like twice, and what was it called, 21? Yeah. But it's been a while since we've played. So
there was a time where her confidence was a little low, Danny. So as her coach, I tried to get that up a little bit. Let her take a game or two from me, just for the team. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Jacklynn, this is when you come back over the top and say, conveniently, Dad hasn't played me too often since those games.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's
getting old. He's scared.
So Danny's brought up Lapel, my age. What I do to you, great. Danny?
Yes, I know. I'll start bringing up, I don't know, some Carson Cunningham matchup.
There we go. Okay, I can deal with that.
He's probably going to start going through your Ball State resume and count how many losses you had there.
We beat Carson my senior year at Ball State by 20. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. Well, the first time Mickey and I ever had a phone conversation, he called me and dropped the name of one of my AAU teammates. So we, and I think they're actually a family member, maybe through marriage and all of that. I can't remember the exact connection, but Mickey, I've really enjoyed your success. I root for you. I really do, man. And Jack, you too. And just getting to know you guys over the last couple of years has been great. So make it 13-0, and who knows? Maybe you go 1-0 enough that we see you downtown.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Hopefully be seeing you here in a couple weeks at that county tournament.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Well, thank you guys so much. We'll talk to you later.
All right.
Yeah.
See you, Courtney.
See you. Have a Merry Christmas.
Mickey and Jacklynn Hosier with us. I'm just glad they didn't drop out after Danny did all that. Oh my God, you just painfully. It's like every single Lapel loss. He's like, and then you lost to him 3 times, but you only lost to him twice the next year.
Hey,
only once then, but it was by 40 points.
listen, they got him though. They got him. It's an important part of the story that they're telling this year. I mean, sometimes when you beat, like, I don't know. I mean, cross sports analogies suck, but I'll use one, right? I mean, like the Bulls and the Pistons, the Colts and the Patriots. I mean, you have those steps that are always in the way of your team's goals. And that was theirs. I mean, and you could tell when you watch that game, and if anybody has watched it, okay, you can tell. Like, you can just tell through stream the way that the crowd was. They I don't think there was a field goal in that basketball game that Alexandria scored in like the last 3 minutes, and they just like dribbled out the last 60 seconds or something like that. And you could tell, I mean, she just let out a huge yell. It's just one of those things that sometimes that you don't know why things happen, but maybe to escalate that win even more to even jumpstart them through a nice postseason run. But they're good. They're good.
Hank, I just got to add this in there. So when I was in high school, I had to pull this up. Like, Alexandria was not good at girls basketball at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, this is like a complete shift that, I mean, they're like, are they 13-0? They're going on 12-0.
12-0.
So when I was in high school, so here's some of their records: 1-21, 4-18, 6-15. Like, they were not good basketball program. So the to be on here, like, I was excited, like, wow, like, they're making noise, and there's 3 great players in Madison County. So that's exciting for girls basketball. And speaking of, how about we pivot this thing? Basketball term. Okay, here we go. So Tuesday, Lapel 60, Eastern Hancock 56. Lanai Willis had 29, 9-17 shooting, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks. Jane Armington, 12 points, 4 or 5 shooting, all threes. And Sophie Goodwin, 10 points. So we'd love to talk to you guys about Lapel Eastern Hancock.
Nice win for Lapel. Really nice win for Lapel. I didn't think a win that they were going to get. But I think it shows you that the Lapel from earlier in the season and the Lapel that maybe was trudging along a little bit. I mean, they picked off a good university team. Now they beat Eastern Hancock, which was on a heater. I mean, that was impressive.
They played zone. Newbie played them in zone. I was surprised. And I can't tell you that I'm familiar with the defensive game plans of Zach Newbie every basketball game. But if you have Lanai Wills, the logical thing to think going into a game against Eastern Hancock is, well, we're going to let Wills guard Cook. And when I watched the Alexandria film, that's exactly what I saw in the first half was Wills guarding Hosier. But he sat zone and it worked. I mean, but the end of that game was crazy. So I think it was Lapel. I'm not going to have the exact numbers. Okay. But Lapel was up multiple possessions. I think 3 possessions in that basketball game. Cook comes down, hits a 3, and then Cook comes down and hits another 3. And then Wills gets to the line, or they foul Wills. She makes a couple of free throws, and then Cook gets fouled on a 3-pointer, down 4 points with 4 seconds left. Okay, she misses the first, makes the second. So now there's that age-old question: do you miss the last free throw on purpose, or do you make it? Okay, so Courtney, they're at the line. Down 2, Cook has 1 foul shot, and there's 4 seconds left. So let me just pause here. You making the free throw, fouling, or are you missing the free throw, tipping out, and trying to hit a 3 in 4 seconds? What are you doing?
4 seconds. This goes back to the shot clock conversation we had last year. How good of 3-point shooters do they have? Like,
well, Cook's at the line, and she's their best 3-point shooter. So so, and she's, I mean, and look, Eastern Hancock isn't lighting it up from the 3-point.
I'm probably hitting and fouling. I mean, 4 second, try to push it.
Okay. I
What about
agree.
you?
I agree. I agree. I think you make it. I think you extend
Yeah.
the basketball game. The minute you miss that, you're making it a one possession basketball game. There's a lot of things that can happen, right? They can throw the inbounds away. They can get a 5-second call. There's a lot of different things that can happen there. Okay. So they decide Cook. I mean, I think there actually was even a timeout. I actually think Newbie calls a timeout to discuss the very thing that we're discussing right now. Okay. They come out, Lindsay, Shaw, and Kenzie, I'm sure have a conversation. Kenzie decides to make the third foul shot. She makes it. Now they're down 2. They throw the basketball inbounds, they being Lapel. And then the girl just holds the ball. I don't know who it is. It wasn't Lanaya. Okay. Holds the ball. And then Kenzie Cook, and she got to learn from this. Okay. Doesn't foul properly. Like she almost, I mean, if you go back and watch it, it's almost like she's like patting her on the back. Now they had the arrow. I think in hindsight, I think she probably should have tried to tie her up to try to get the jump ball to shoot the possession over. But the time expires while they're trying to foul. And everybody's just, they're all just touching this girl like on the back, and they're looking at the ref like, give us the whistle, give us the whistle, give us the whistle. Finally gives us the whistle. There's zeros on the clock. The reason why it's 60-56 is because with zeros on the clock, they still went down and shot the free throws, which I'm not sure I completely understand that. They make the 2 free throws, and then they walk off the court, 60-56. So if you had Eastern Hancock, or if you had -3.5, you got a bad beat, I guess. I mean, but it's just a weird finish. But the end of that game was great. But watching Wills and Cook go, I mean, what did they have? I'm looking right now, 32 and 32 or 32 and 27. Like it was
29.
32 and 29. It was pretty awesome. And both those teams they're gonna figure into the conversation in postseason runs. And they just will. I feel for, I congratulate Lapel, because on one hand, you have games like the Alexandria game where they're a shell of themselves and don't have everything together and get beat pretty handily at Alexandria. But then to go into Eastern Hancock just a couple of weeks later and to get that win is a big character win for Zach Newby and Lapel. But I feel for Eastern Hancock, who just came off of the big 4A win against Cathedral, felt like they validated themselves, probably could have made a statement, if you will, and just came up a little bit short. But a great game.
For Lapel, I think there are a lot of sophomores. You have a lot of young kids playing against a lot of seniors, and I think that kind of helps explain some of the dynamic with the Alexandria game. Not saying that Alexandria wouldn't have won anyway, but I think it maybe explains the margin to some extent when you have a bunch of young kids playing like that. With respect to Tuesday's game, that felt like a little bit more of an important game for Eastern Hancock, just because the schedule is not good after this. Like the conference is down. They'll get a shot at Sheridan here over Christmas break, which I won't be able to be at because it's Hall of Fame Day, but that's a fascinating game where you have Kenzie Gardner, the senior, going against Kenzie Cook, the sophomore. That's going to be tremendous entertainment. Maybe just clear the floor and just let those two go at it and see which can get to 51st, and you'll be playing for about 20 minutes before they get there. So that'll be really good. But focusing on Lapel, they're one of those teams that's going to appreciate value. They got the coach, they got the star. Now it's just a matter of getting everybody in and the piece around them to come along. And I mean, a win like that can catapult you. And they're going to get a crack at Pendleton Heights too. And I mean, that's a winnable game. That's no disrespect to Pendleton. That's meant to build up Lapel. Like that's a winnable game there. And then you get another shot at Alexandria. So there's a lot to play for Lapel. And how about this line, by the way, for Lanaya Wills tonight? 32 points, 26 rebounds in a 48-39 win over Monroe Central. This is about a week after she set the school's single game scoring record with, I want to say 48 last.
I think it was 48. Yeah.
I mean, the kid is playing out of her mind.
Yeah, she really is. It's such a different team for them this year. I mean, when you graduate a kid like Pointer, a very difficult thing to do. I mean, they're almost it's almost mirror images of themselves, right? I mean, Cook graduates the big class, maybe not as, not a singular player like Pointer. But they both were hurt by graduation, but they both have extraordinarily talented kids that remain on the roster. And so I think when you have situations like that, I think the kids, they're kids, right? I mean, they deserve some time to figure out how to play in such a different environment, right? Those kids are playing high level AAU basketball. They're last year they were on loaded teams. I mean, Lanaya she's already played in the state championship. And so to have a team now where I don't want to say has to go out and get 32 or 48, but she has to go out and get 32 or 48. But to learn how to do that, I think, is a very difficult thing. Courtney, I mean, you've done that stuff before where it's like, you have to balance. I got to go out and do what I think is best for the team. And if going out and getting 48 is what's best for the team, you got to go out and get 48. That's a very difficult thing to do if you've never really been in that situation.
Yeah, you just have to know your role and you got to do your job. And so it's just a change in mindset. Like, you got to shift that you're not being selfish to go out and do that. You're actually being selfish if you don't go out and do that, because that's what your team needs. So if you have that, I'm being selfish not to go get 30 or 40, like that's a completely different mentality that you just know that's what you're supposed to do. Do your job is what I always tell players. Like, you got to go do your job.
We might have a special guest. I don't know. That said special guest had texted me earlier about getting someone else on the show, and I fired back and then took a swing. So if that happens, we'll extend the show. But for now, let's move on. Let's move a little bit south. And Danny, I'll let you just vamp on this one because I haven't seen stats for it, just what you and I texted. I'm hoping to see see both the teams before long, and that's Mount Vernon 55, New Palestine 41. New Palestine graduate a lot. They were in a bit of a rebuilding phase. Mount Vernon in a similar spot, but they got some freshmen stepping up and playing some big roles for them, Danny.
Death taxes Julie Shelton, right? I mean,
Yeah,
and I'll give my nod to Josh Sable in that quote. She's done a great job with this basketball team. And it's not because of their 10-3. It's because the development of their freshmen. I mean, they're being led by kids. That's not a short-term thing. Like, Julie Shelton has coached some of the better guards in Central Indiana before, and she knows how to do it, and there's a process to it. But to get these kids to look, feel, and execute with just the level of comfort that is coming out on film is a remarkable job, quite honestly, by Coach Shelton. So I give a lot of credit to her, but I also give a lot of credit to these freshmen, Williams and Wood. Okay. Wood, we talked about. Wood is the kid that had, she probably had the expectation maybe coming into the season, that to be the leader, to be the scorer, to be the distributor, to be the kid on a super high trajectory that lands. I mean, who even knows? Maybe even a junior all-star and things like that. But Zoe Wood's a really good player. But a very difficult thing to do as a freshman is to do what we're talking about that Jacklynn Hosier is doing, and Kenzie Cook is doing, and Lanaya Wills is doing. Having to do it as a freshman, you need to have some help. And Coach Shelton and Mount Vernon have been able to develop, albeit losing Gabby Thomas to an injury, who was, I think, their second leading scorer when she went down, to develop Williams as a secondary scorer for Mount Vernon is really made a world of difference. In that New Pal basketball game, both of those kids, I think they had 28 and 19, I think, were the 2 point outputs that they had. In just the least shocking news, I think we're going to be hearing more about Mount Vernon because of the developments of these 2 freshmen.
Absolutely. Death taxes Julie Shelton. I forgot about that. Though, it is unbelievable. Like, she's coaching them up. She's got them playing well. They lost one at the buzzer, a heartbreaker to Chittard. But they've bounced back. I mean, they picked up some nice wins. They beat Westfield. That's a win that they'll probably appreciate and value. And I mean, that's a more experienced team they have over there. And like you said, Danny, I mean, to win games too with so many freshmen is impressive, and it speaks to the future too. And I mean, it's just you reload after graduating a player like Ellery Minch, who's now playing out at DePaul, and you just plug and you go. You plug and you go. You plug and you go, and it's great to see.
Courtney, I mean, you know that. I mean, you can look at. I'm not saying that Zoe Wood has been great because she scored 27 points. I mean, you can just tell on film. Like, she looks more comfortable. She looks more confident. The game looks to have slowed down for her. She looks to she looks like she understands the game of basketball at a higher level. Some of that is experience, some of that is Zoe, but a ton of that is Julie. But you can just, does it just click for you one day, Courtney? I mean, I don't know. The game was probably very slow for you for a very long time, but I mean, earlier in the year, and I think I can get away with saying this because she got out of it, but Zoe was, I mean, it was wild. Like it just looked everything looked a little bit rushed. Everything looked a little bit quick. So I guess I'd throw it to you and just hear your comment as a freshman. I mean, where does that level of comfort come from? Does it just come from playing?
I always say confidence comes from, number one, work ethic. So you're learning, you have to get in the game, you have to get the action, and you have to make adjustments. But a huge part, you nailed it, is from your coach. Like, because you're running their system, especially as a guard, you got to be the quarterback on the floor. And so having a great coach that's coaching players very well, like you can see the transformation. And we've seen it. Like she's slow. Like there's obviously been coaching that's going on, and she respects her coach and she's listening to and she's getting great results from it. And when you start doing that, it makes you listen more to your coach, just like a kid and a parent, right? So, but yeah. And I was just looking at their schedule. There are 8 games left in the regular season, and we're in the sectional. 8 games.
Wow.
It's different for some teams, to be fair. But yeah, it's coming in fast. I mean, we're already almost to January, which means we have a month until. I mean, we're talking every night, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's how I think of sectionals now. Is it's just the 3 of us talking on a nightly basis, me busting ass back. All right, we're gonna keep this one on track for as long as we can. Any final thoughts, or should we move on to one more game that I wanted to touch on?
Yeah, whatever, man. Let's move it along.
Fisher's Pendleton Heights. Let me get my notes up here because this game was also wild. Ada Hupfer hits a go-ahead basket with 11 seconds left. Then Michaela Triplett wins it with a putback at the buzzer. Fisher's led by as many as 9 in the first half. Pendleton comes back to take the lead in the fourth. They go up 45-41, but then Courtney, you love this play. Allison Shoy, the senior, comes in with a 4-point play. The Courtney Delks specials, we're going to call it for the rest of the show. And Fishers pulls out the 48-47 win. Nevaeh Dickman, 22 points, Shoy 12 and 10 rebounds. Ada Hupfer gets 16 rebounds. Aubrey Warfel, the freshman who I want to talk about, I think freshman or sophomore, either way, 12 points, 4 rebounds. And I tweeted it out, but there's something about those Warfel girls and this Fishers matchup. I remember the first time that I covered Casey, she went off and spurred an upset with their coach out with COVID and a bunch of starters out with COVID. I think maybe including her sister. Either way, Casey went off, and that was kind of her coming out party. So we'll see if this can be the same for Aubrey now as Pendleton Heights falls short in a game that, in reading Rob Hunt's story afterwards, was frustrating because they come close, but they just can't break through. But, I mean, still the battle back from 9 down like that is impressive in itself.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Who had the game? Was that Anthony or Triplett, or who had the game winner?
Michaela Triplett had the game winner.
Triplett had the game winner. Yeah. Yeah, they were fortunate to get away with that one with a victory. I mean, it was
Fishers, you mean?
Yeah, Fishers was fortunate to get out of Pendleton with a victory. Before we kind of move to the Fishers side, I do want to say something about Pendleton. I had spotlighted Casey Warfel's 3-point shooting earlier in the year, and then as Hank likes to remind me, I completely I had like the scores table jinx or something. I think she goes out and maybe just makes 1 3 on multiple attempts at the Sneakers for Santa tournament or something like that. But Casey has avenged me because she is shooting still 40% from 3, like double what she shot last year. So those that say water will find its level with Casey Warfel, that's the water level now. So she's 40% 3-point shooter. I mean, it's what are we, 13, 14 games in? That's a large enough sample size to say that kid can shoot, that kid's going to make 2 out of every 5 threes she shoots. But I think a lot of it comes down to shot selection. I think she's really, not having to do as much on that basketball team. One of the things that kind of stood out to me, you mentioned the Hupfer basket that she had. They had the ball for through missed shot attempts, offensive rebounds, turnover. It seemed like a 60 to 80 second possession. I don't think Casey touched it. Like she runs to the weak side when they're down 1 and doesn't really come back for the basketball. I mean, I think one time she flashed middle and asked for it, didn't get it, and then just emptied out. But there seems to be a lot more trust now with the teammates. They seem to be a lot more connected. That could be completely false. I have no idea, but I just know that Casey's such an extraordinary talent that the natural thing to do when you're down 1 is to run and get the basketball and tell everybody else to get out of the way. And that's not what happened. And Ada Hupfer hits a big shot, puts them up. They just didn't have the ball last. Fishers did, and they won. But over to Fishers. Dickman has, every time you turn him on. I mean, every time you turn him on, Nevaeh Dickman is doing something. Like she is the one that actually took the last shot that Triplet got the offensive rebound on and put back. But she was great down at the Evansville North Classic. Her statistical output has been there, but she has really taken the next step forward, and she's going to have to continue that because of what awaits them tomorrow night.
That's the Mudsock game. We're just over 80 minutes now, so I'll leave us, let's say 5 minutes, then we'll give ourselves some time to wrap, get some Mudsock thoughts as we pivot to that. Danny, I'll just let you take the show because I feel like I've written and talked about both teams ad nauseum.
And I've talked to him ad nauseum too. Okay. To me, it boils down to shooting the basketball. Okay. It's a rivalry game. So it just comes down to the most basic things. Okay. HSE as a team is shooting 47% from 3. Okay. Now, Maya, I think herself is shooting 48. Stidham is still in the 40s. Fishers, in shooting the 3, is currently shooting 23% from the 3-point line. Okay. Now, one might say, well, they're not a 3-point shooting team. Okay. But they take a lot of them. I mean, and so Nevaeh Dickman is actually leading them in 3-point percentage for everybody on their basketball team that has at least 10 attempts. Nevaeh Dickman is leading them in 3-point percentage, and that's not what Nevaeh Dickman does best, okay? So I think Fishers, in just the most unoriginal, overly simplistic take you can have, has to shoot the leather off the basketball tomorrow night, okay? Because I know HSE is going to, and Lauren's going to love that I said that, because they're going to guard them and they're going to make it hard, but so does everybody against HSE, and they just continue to make shots. But yeah, 23%. I mean, they just have to improve on that. I think they're shooting in the high 40s from the 2s. I think they're like a 60-something% free throw shooting team. Like, the metrics don't measure up, and it's a rivalry game. And Fishers has done, and Lauren specifically has done really well in this rivalry. But they're going to have to make shots. And I will point out too, that it will be in a gym that none of these kids have ever played a basketball game in. Yes, they've probably gotten to practice. I mean, I saw
they practiced today. Yeah.
They practiced today, so they probably were able to get some shots up. But there's going to be 6,000 people there tomorrow.
Are there though?
I don't know. There's going to be 6,000 seats in the building. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I'll circle back to that. I didn't mean to cut you off, but finish.
But I mean, Courtney, I mean, you know this, like, the backdrop changes. And when the backdrop changes, shot outcome changes too. So I think that's the story for me, is who adjusts to the new surroundings and who makes shots. And it's really tough to go against the 20th ranked team in the country that's shooting 40+% from the 3-point line, with a kid that's shooting 48%, with every single coach that they coach against is like, don't let Maya shoot a 3.
I think the story of the game for me would be, I think these games that are within like a 5-day radius of Christmas are catch games. And kids have gone through finals. They've gone through the whole semester. They've gone through a whole year where they went from one grade to the next grade. They've been through their travel seasons, and like it comes to the point where you're just ready to get to Christmas. Like you kind of want that little bit of a break, but you have got to mentally stay locked in on your assignments that you need to lock in on. There's, sickness starts going around this time of year. Like it's a catch game. And so HSC has got to stay on their game and not go on Christmas break before the game, So that's all of these games 5 days before Christmas within that window. They're catch games.
I'm very curious. Danny, you mentioned the capacity there. I'm very curious to see what the turnout is for the girls' game. I like that. It's going to be cool, and I think it's going to be a really cool experience for the girls, and I'm sure they're going to do it up right. But that's one bummer, is that it was cool. It was at the high school gyms because they're both the right size for the game. You know what I mean? Like there weren't a ton of empty seats, and I'm sure by the fourth quarter or whatever, it'll look nice because people will be filing in for the boys' game, and it is what it is. It's a whole separate discussion, but I'm really curious to see what year one on a neutral floor looks like, even though I think in theory it kind of makes sense to play a rivalry game like this on a neutral floor to some extent.
We live in a different world where there's phones and there's tablets and there's all that stuff too. Everybody's connected now, okay? But they're also going head-to-head against Notre Dame, Indiana.
Yeah, I guess they do the early start might help that.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe head over there and then you head over to the yard and catch the end of the football game. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I've got vacation. I'm going to the airport tomorrow. I'm actually probably not going to see it. I think I had 12 tickets. I had to move them all.
The secondary market. Did you get them on StubHub or
no? I sent a text in a group thread and they were gone in
5,088 fans there, and there's going to be 12 empty seats, and those are going to be the Riego seats because this jackwagon had to get on a plane.
But I did go secondary market on my Indiana Notre Dame tickets.
Nice.
Those were not given away.
That's smart. You could have given them to Courtney and I. Very thoughtful of you.
Yeah. My bad.
I'll say.
We got you sweatshirts.
That's true. They're nice sweatshirts. I really do, in all sincerity. I love the sweatshirts. But yeah, with regards to Mudsock tomorrow, I'm curious. I have a prior engagement. I'm going to be going back home as well for Christmas. But I am very curious to see how it looks. And the game itself, it's always ripe for chaos and the unexpected. I think right now the expectation is HSE is going to win. But Fisher is coming off a really big win. They're going to be juiced up for this game. Shoy Dickman, it's their last go-around. They got the freshman. Mm-hmm. Shellhammer wants to make an impact. And then on the other side, obviously there's Stidham and Holman and everybody else. But really, this is Maya's last go-around in the Mudsock. And some bitterness of past sectional failures, I'm sure. And last year they finally got a taste of beating Fishers. So we'll see how it goes. It's going to be a lot of fun. And this is I'll end the show with this, but how good is this Miss Basketball race now, currently, Danny, like we're talking about, and how important is this upcoming stretch where you're going to get to see the Hall of Fame Classic with Makaluski and Jayla Lampley both on display there. And then Tipner's going to have a crack at Norwell, and then either Valpo or Snyder, two really talented teams. Avery Gordon's going to be playing Lawrence North. Columbia City, I think, plays they're at an event where they can play Chittard, McCutcheon. Yep. 1, 2, 3. It's just all happening there. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think even just isolated to the Indy area kids, because I don't want to cause problems with saying, why'd you leave this person out or whatever, just focusing on the Indy area front runners, we're going to learn a lot. And there's going to be an opportunity for kids to make some big statements here over the coming weeks. And it's going to be coming days. It's going to be a lot of fun to see.
For sure. Trivia question for you guys. Who is the number 1 Sagarin rated girls basketball team in Indiana? Do you guys know the answer to that?
Is it Homestead?
Okay, so Hank's going Homestead. Who are you going with, Courtney?
It might be Lawrence Central.
Lawrence Central. I would say Lawrence Central or HSC were my two guesses.
Those home games do the Kentucky games count for our LLC's Sagarin?
I don't know. We asked that question with Save last year. I don't know. Okay.
Oh, wow. I was way wrong.
Yeah. According to the computers, the number 1 team in the state is South Knox.
Straight to schedule. Yeah, that's interesting.
How about that?
Is that a margin of victory thing? Is that how it's factored in?
I'm sure the computers look at the scoreboard for sure. But I mean, you have the number 1 team in South Knox, you have the number 3 team in Lawrence Central, you have the number 4 team in HSC, and the number 7 team in Homestead. This is as good of a Hall of Fame field as we've had. I mean, we've had some great ones. I mean, we had the game winner walk-off or
Reagan.
the slide-off that Reagan had. And there were a lot of people that talked about that basketball game when Reagan, because Noblesville won the Hall of Fame Classic, but Chloe Spreen goes on to win Miss Basketball. I mean, there were a lot of people that even talked about that. So not only do you have 25 Miss Basketball, storylines between Lampley and Makalewski, but you also have 26 foreshadowing because you have kids like Epps and Holman that are going to be in the building. And Lola Lampley is going to be there. So, I mean, 3 of the top 26, forget 25. I mean, you might have 3 of the 5 best 26s in the state also in that. I mean, it's going to be one heck of a day, and I will be there all day.
Yeah, me too. Speaking of the Sacker, and I'll end it officially with this. I'm doing another Coaches Anonymous thing, and this one was, if you're IHSA commissioner for a day, what would you change? One of the suggestions was to see the sectional, obviously, which is obviously the right answer with the shot clock, but they suggested to use the Sagarin, but cap the win differential at 20 points so that if you beat a team by 40, it counts the same as a win by 20. So that way you don't have teams running up the score. You don't have, 92-7 beat downs or anything like that because they're padding the record. I thought that was interesting and, something probably worth considering. And then there's probably you weight in strength of schedule there. So games between Alexandria, Lapel, Alexandria, Wapahani to tie it back in from earlier counts for something a little bit more, and there's incentive to schedule those games. So some food for thought as we head into the Christmas break, something to talk about around the Christmas tree with the kids. I'm sure that everybody's gathered around the hearth listening to this right now and enjoying the family time.
AAU caps at 15. But you mentioned food for thought, and you said we were getting out of here, okay?
Yeah.
And so if you're not going to the Hall of Fame, you can punch out right now, okay? But I spent a considerable amount of time in Newcastle, and I wanted to share this, okay? And I'm going to.
I'm sorry, Danny. I forgot this. Yes,
No. Listen, it's okay. Like I said, if you're going to be at the Hall of Fame, you can go back and read this, okay? Or listen to this, all right? But what to do, where to eat, before the games, between the games. When I say that I spend an extraordinary amount of time in Newcastle, more than anybody would. I mean, it's maybe, oh God, I got me full screen. You're such a jerk. Such a jerk. Okay, so listen.
This is how Danny wants the show to go every time, by the way.
Well, now I'm not going to do it. And now everybody is just going to eat at McDonald's. No, in all seriousness, okay? This Newcastle, Indiana, okay? In all seriousness and all respect to that geography, okay? It's not exactly, I mean, look, you have to know where to go, right? So I did want to point out, because I've gotten to know some of these people through the years, I'm going to eat at Mancino's. I mean, if you live in a community that has a Mancino's, I mean, I think it started in St. Clair Shores, Michigan, but came down here. There's a woman there who's actually been hand making the dough for 25 to 30 years, I think. Yeah, she's like, and there's like, her picture is up there. Her last name is Poore, Poore. Like, her picture is up on the wall. But that's where I'm going to eat. They probably have 20 to 25 like grinders, like hot sandwiches, but it's a pizza grinder place where you just walk up to the counter, you order, you sit down. That's where I'll eat. Okay. But their place in Newcastle is Park Restaurant. It's like home style cooking. So if you're looking for home style cooking, Park Restaurant is there. They've got a place called Ink and Ale. And it's like a bar with TVs. You can actually, it's got one of those places where you can like throw axes at the wall, which is, probably why I'm not going to eat there. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would like to throw an axe at me, but I will not be eating at Ink and Ale.
But you will be at the other place. So,
but I will. I will be at
the place with the axes, and then go visit Danny at the sandwich place.
But if you want a good sandwich, Cafe Royale, that's a really good place. And that also is order at the counter, and it's kind of unique because it's like in a market. So like, You go up and order, and then there's these tables, except it's like a little like bizarre kind of like market area, but they have great sandwiches, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Their breakfast place is a place called Stacks. Although you can get breakfast at Cafe Royale, and you can get breakfast at Park. But Stacks, here's a little inside info on Stacks. Stacks is actually owned by a Greek family. So the locals in Newcastle will tell you that if you want to eat at Stacks and get breakfast, that you're supposed to get like their Euro bowl or like the Greek skillet, and have Euro meat, like, because it's like a Newcastle Greek family, I think, that bought it. But it's the origination of Jack's Donuts. They have Whitetail Donuts. They have all of those places. If you're looking for like a nicer Italian meal, white tablecloth downtown, there's a place called Primo. It's like, you can get your spaghetti carbonara there. It's like a $20 a plate place. But if you want to eat at the Subway and the McDonald's and the Hardee's and the Ming's buffet, which is there, be my guest, but those are the places that you eat at. And I was actually in Newcastle today, said that we were going to talk about the Hall of Fame Classic at a real high level. And I did want to share some of the thoughts that were coming out as to where everybody was supposed to eat between basketball games. So if you see me around at the morning games, I think there's an 11 o'clock game and a 12:45 game. More than happy to talk to you about recos. But I'm all about the food, because I'm going to go to that 11 game. I'm going to go to the 12:45 game, and then I'm going to rot in Mancino's for about 3 hours. And the holidays for me is not about saving money or losing weight. So I'm going to go eat a full grinder and enjoy it.
He will not talk to you about basketball. He will not talk to you about the show. He will talk to you about food, though. Just make sure that you pay attention to the velvet ropes around Danny. I don't know if you've seen him. He travels a little mini entourage. They put up his little post. Courtney, you know what I'm talking about. Guy's a prima donna. You and I, we're salt of the earth. I sit on the baseline with the common folk. Danny's in his little high castle.
And he's eating at Michelin restaurants in Newcastle.
He is going over the Lapel Alexandria record.
That's a legit take.
It was great. It was just really funny listening to you list through. Like, those poor people.
Maybe a little big extreme. I could have just said you haven't beaten Lapel in 3 years. I probably could have said that. I was like, well, they beat him 3 times last year, Hank.
That does add to effect. That is really unique, though, in all seriousness. Like, that is remarkable. And it sets up for a great question and they even admitted to it. It's just like, it gets in your head. Like, we can't talk to Courtney about this, obviously, because I can't imagine there's a team.
Here's Christian.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And we have talked about that, where it becomes a mental thing. Anyway, we're going to continue BSing off air, so I should probably just end it here at 97 minutes. Thank you all so much for watching. Congratulations to those who made it to the end. Have a great holiday. We'll talk to you guys after the Hall of Fame Classic.